I started doing workshops and doing groups where I'm getting up in front of others, like outside of the gym setting, and talking about resilience and perseverance and goal setting and vision and taking action. You should know what 1 hour of your time is worth. You should know the value that you bring to the marketplace. You know what you're passionate. It starts with clarity of vision. If you don't have the clarity of vision, whatever next thing you get, you're not going to see it through because you don't have the clarity of vision. So the point of my pain was being told you will never run or jump again. And all that stuff, I was like, you know what? Like, I want to be able to take this even bigger. If you know why you do what you do, you have to know how to charge for what you do. That's how you're going to change your life, and that's how you're going to leave a legacy for your children and your family. You got to know your work. Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rob, and I'm back with episode number 381 of Shut Up and Grind. We were all about overcoming obstacles, defying the odds, and inspiring you, yes, you, to get whatever is blocking your path to the success that you want. I bring guests on from all over the world. I've had guests from 6 of the 7 continents, and at some point, there's going to be an internet connection in Antarctica, and I'm going to interview somebody from there too. So here we're all about empowering, inspiring, igniting that fire inside of you, and then unleashing that new and inspired version of yourself. Because too many times people get inspired, but then they do nothing with it. They go to summits, they buy books, they take courses, they go to masterminds, and they get that inspiration, but then there's no action. So here we find out what my guests went through, how they got through those challenges, those setbacks, and those roadblocks, and then on to what they're doing now. And here, again, it's about the house, not about the what. It's like, yes, I was told I would never run and jump again. It's not about that. It's about how did I defy those odds. That's what we want to inspire people to do. So whatever is holding you back, this is about you getting through it. And so I titled today is Getting Off the Hamster Wheel, a Different Way to Win at Life. And before I bring my guest on to dissect this topic, for those that don't know, I'm having knee replacement surgery on not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. And I'm already moving, like I've already had the surgery and I've healed already. I'm scheduling races into the new year. I'm scheduling activities, and people are like, how are you going to do that? I'm like, because I am. Because I'm telling myself that I'm going to be ready by this time. Like I'm telling myself. So you guys know I say on this show all the time that the mind controls the body. So I'm already telling myself I'm going to be ready to start hiking again in March. I'm going to be ready to start racing again by June. And I'm going to be fully healed by summer. And I'm going to make sure that happens. And it's not just idle talk. So whatever it is you want to accomplish in your life, speak like you're already there. Move like you're already there. And then you'll be able to accomplish anything. All right. So let's get to my guest right now. Who is this guest I speak of? Arlene. She brings wisdom, calm assurance, and practical tools to help driven professionals, especially women, lead themselves with compassion and strength. Arlene, welcome to the show. How we doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So where are you joining me from?
I'm joining you from Longmont, Colorado, which is about 40 minutes northwest of downtown Denver in the beautiful foothills of the Rocky Mountains.
Nice. So fun fact, so in 2017, I went to a fitness mastermind about 45 minutes south of Denver. And so I'm up here in Rhode Island. And if you haven't been someplace, you only know what you see, right? What you see on TV, commercials. I went in March. I expected it to be like feet of snow everywhere. Oh no, all 4 days, it was like 82 degrees.
You never know in Colorado. You can get a ton of snow in
Yes.
January, and the golfers can be out in February, and then you get a ton of snow in March. It can snow in April, and we get 300 days, I'm sorry, of sunshine here. So there's no predicting.
Wow.
It is snowing up in the mountains now, and we're very, very grateful because Colorado does provide the rainwater for not only ourselves, but for 2 or 3 other states.
Yeah, so when I was down there, one of the locals well, he was actually in the mastermind, but he said it's not uncommon to shovel snow. Oh, no, to have a blizzard one day and then shovel snow in shorts the next. I was like,
He's
that's
right.
crazy.
Well,
All right, so let's.
the snow here just likes it if when it's falling off the tree limbs, it literally crackles and like doesn't even hit the ground because it's like such a light kind of snow. So we need to
Wow.
have that too.
All right, so before we dive in, those of you on the live stream now, please hit that like button. Help us get this information out. And thank you for tuning in. All right, so again, I titled this "Getting Off the Hamster Wheel: A Different Way to Win at Life." So before we get into that topic, how would you describe yourself at your core?
Well, I would describe myself as a seeker. I'm always learning, I'm always growing. I think that keeps you young and I think that keeps you vital. And I guess I am a person that has been broken and brokenhearted. So one of my focuses is to be the clearest, brightest light and love that I can be. And that is always a work in progress because we're always evolving and growing and we're always learning. And, sometimes I move forward gracefully and sometimes I trip and fall and need to pick myself back up. But I feel that that best describes who I am.
Yeah, and that hits all of us. Like nobody coasts through life unscathed. Like doesn't matter if you're dirt poor, doesn't matter if you're a billionaire. People fall on hard times. But you use the word that I hear a lot, broken, right? So what happened to where you felt like you were broken?
Um, I'm trying, I guess I felt there's different times in my life I felt broken. And looking at in hindsight, I love what you shared about in your knee surgery because mindset is everything. But I really didn't begin to really grow and learn about mindset until I was much older in life. I didn't start as young as you did. And so little things that might not bother anybody else, bothered me, felt like I was less than. And it was a breakup of certain relationships that were really important to me. It was, um, well, after my first divorce, I've been married and divorced twice. I was dating someone, and I was coming from a place of unworthiness. I still hadn't really built up my worthiness pillar at all. And so it's like the soul shone through and that guy like was gone from my life and it was like the best thing that ever happened in retrospect. But when that happened, I literally hit the floor. I literally felt like I couldn't get up. And it was a lot of the patterning and programming about, how I was supposed to be and live as a woman in this world. But it was also stuff that I just imposed upon myself, that I was nothing if I didn't have a relationship in my life. And none of this is true. It's all a mindset thing and how we want to live and grow. And it was, in hindsight, it was like the best thing that ever happened, because what I learned is that I had been creating the same kind of relationship over and over, and I ended up taking like 6 months, no dating, no nothing. My son was then very young, well, not super young. He was probably about 5.5 when I started this, maybe 6. And I had bought this really old house that was built in 1925. I lived in Lakewood, Ohio, then a suburb of Denver, and I just completely fixed it up. I learned how to do that. I learned how to plaster walls. I learned how to sand floors and refinish them. And I was like, you need a reset, Arlene. You need to not, and if you don't change how you're feeling on the inside, you're going to create on the outside in your life what you've had before in relationships. And that's painful. And there wasn't anything like wrong at all with my first husband. He was a lovely man, but there was just things that didn't click in terms of a long-term relationship.
Okay,
So
let
yeah.
me pause you there. Let me pause you. It didn't click because you touched on something that I think is very key for a lot of people. Just write that down so you can pick back up right there. You said there were like a woman is supposed to live in a certain way. And I wrote down the word societal norms. I think a lot of people
Right.
get caught up into societal norms. Like I was actually having a conversation with one of my personal training clients. Like you can't tell with the background, but we're sitting in a gym right now. And we were talking about that. And it was once I really broke free from that way of thinking, was when my own horizon started to expand. Because it's like, oh, you should this by this age, you should this by this age. Once you hit this age, it's too late for that. And it's none of that stuff is true. It's like I'm 51 now,
No.
and I'm getting ready to launch a speaking business, and it's like, if you go by societal norms, it's like I'm a big loser, and then people start believing that stuff, and they start beating themselves up. So just before we get back into the marriage, so let's go back to when you felt less than, right? How, like, was there a pivotal moment where you were like, I can't feel like this anymore?
Well, I guess I had a boyfriend that I told you that fell apart after the marriage. And
Yeah.
I guess, and he was an alcoholic. And so he used to like call me when had been drinking. And I guess when I just didn't even care. And I just sort of disconnected my phone as like that part of my life is done. That
Yes.
I felt like a lot more free. And it was a process. And I feel like that's one of the mistakes we make. We think we're going to get there and be totally different. Yes, it was a process. Yes, there was a lot of growth. There was the ability to say no. I remember when one of my dear friends from the workout club I was a member of set me up with a blind date with a guy that had just gotten a divorce. And he was laughing because the whole time I was rolling my eyes, he was just talking about what a witch his ex-wife was. And I'm like, that's not endearing me to go out on a date with you. But
Thanks.
before, when I really felt unworthy, before I took that time for myself, I might have just done it because as I would have told myself, well, it's better than staying home alone. And then I got to the point where I'm perfectly fine being by myself. So I feel like it was a process that I needed to go through to come into myself and be able to actually love myself.
All right. Yeah, and I feel that too because I've been single for 8 years now, and like I would find myself one relationship would end and I'd get into another. That one would end, I'd get into another, and it's very easy. Like as you said, the guy on the date trashing his ex, and it's easy to do that to just pick out all the flaws in the other person. And then my realization came where I was like, I'm the common denominator here in all these relationships. So it's like, where am I going wrong? Like, where did I screw up? Like, how can I become a better man if I decide to date again? And instead of sitting there saying this one's crazy, this one's this one's that, I was like, all right, in this relationship, I could have done this better. In this relationship, I could have done this better. Going back to what you said earlier, that it has to come from within, right? So what steps did you start taking to turn that corner? Because it's easy to recognize, like people can say all day long, oh, I know me, I'm crazy, right? But then they don't take any steps to make themselves better. So how did you
Right.
get that process started?
Well, there was a lot of synchronicity in my life. I'm a retired attorney, and I was practiced law for over 31 years. And in the beginning part, I did for the first 12 years, I just did like family law and a little bit of commercial collection law, and then I sort of switched over to commercial law because family law is really hard. And one night, I just felt like there's a lot of synchronicity to say, here's a guide for you to help you move forward. And that came, my ex had at our son, for the weekend, and I was at the office at a time that I never was, like about 7 o'clock at night. Just, I didn't feel like going on a date or anything. I didn't feel like staying home, so I figured I'll get some work done. And the phone rang, and usually I wouldn't have picked it up. I did. It was a woman that um, had found a new wonderful man in her life, and both of them had not seen their other significant other in years, and they wanted me to dissolve their marriages, which is a really simple thing to do. And neither she nor her husband, who's like a starving artist kind of guy, and she was an astrologer and did readings. I mean, she had enough to keep it together to have an apartment, but to hire an attorney, no. And I did something I'd never done in my life. I did an exchange, and she did readings for me, and she became like my first spiritual teacher to really help me to see the value of who I am and how to begin to step forward in my life. And the way she did readings was really cool. It wasn't like telling you what to do. It's like, here's what it shows. What are you going to do from now? Yeah, it was a role model, not with so much words, but by example. that she had come out of a really abusive relationship and said no, and taken her sons. And it wasn't nearly as easy because he had a great job. And she was just a really good example for me. And that's when I started to really begin to wake up. And I really feel like the universe was guiding me step by step by step of the way by what was coming out of my mouth. That I look back in hindsight and go, why did I say that? Or why did I even go there? It's been it's been that way a lot of my life. And I'm really grateful for it, because I feel like, I don't know if people have identified this. I feel like spirit speaks in a really small whisper, and egos and personalities can speak like with a big foghorn. And so if we really want to listen to our own heart's knowing, we have to follow that intuition.
Yeah, see, and people have to understand too that spirituality doesn't mean religion, because a lot of people take it right there, and for some people it does, and that's good. But like for me, I can like go out into nature. I love to hike, like go out into nature, get to the summit, to just sit there and just be one with my thoughts. It's like what makes you happy. It's like I'll ask people that I work with that question, and they name a lot of things that are like the easy answers, like my kids, my family, my coworkers. Like no, take all that away. If you didn't have any of that, what's left? Like what are the things that truly make you happy? Like I was stuck in the not stuck because I kept myself there, but I've managed restaurants way longer than I should have. And because deep down inside, I knew I wanted to do some type of speaking. Podcasting wasn't really a thing yet at that time, but it was starting, and I knew I wanted to do that stuff, but I felt trapped. Because I was working, I was in a relationship, my kids were young, you got the house, the cars, and not realizing that I could, to use the word I used earlier, not realizing I could break free. It's like I don't have to do this, but now I had to go backwards before I was able to go forward. So when I decided that I wasn't going to manage anymore, I took a big financial hit, and we had to downsize some things. But then I started my fitness business, got it to six figures, and then everything was great. But I had to stare down that gray area. So was there a time in your transformation where you had to face that unknown?
Yes, a lot. Um, well, I did a lot of things that sort of like broke the mold. After 12 years of practicing family law, several coincidences happened, and I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. I didn't have like the tools and skills to have clear, strong, and appropriate boundaries and to take care of myself. I had grown up in Louisville, Kentucky with a two-parent home. I'd never seen people acting like this before, or the other attorneys, or how the judges handle things in court. And I'm like, I'm going to become like some of these women have done it for years, where you just have such a wall around yourself that no one can get in. And I didn't want to become that. So I decided I'm going to go into commercial law. There was like a big conference in Chicago that I decided to go to. I didn't know anybody. I was already doing a little bit of commercial law because I had a really cool friend who used to be a pastor and couldn't stand working with the people in the congregation. And he sold collection packages to businesses to help them collect, but he needed an attorney to do the work there and to do the work nationwide. And so I said yes. And yeah, so it was a big deal. I got tons of phone calls the first couple of weeks. Actually, the first month that I said no. I shared office space with other attorneys. We had a secretary that took all of our calls. And I just gave her a list of 3 people that I thought were very competent. And I said, just say Arlene's not doing this anymore, but she recommends these 3 people, pick somebody else, or maybe take her suggestion. And that was a big deal, because that was like saying no to money that was like wasn't there before, and saying yes to an unknown future. And it was like the best thing I ever did. I really enjoyed that area of the law. I got to travel all over the place to business meeting. The people, the places I went to in these meetings, the people became like family. It enabled me to sell my business and to buy into a partnership law firm in Longmont, Colorado, where I now live. But it never would have happened if I had said, I really know family law the best, I need to stay here. no matter how I was feeling inside.
So for those of you on the live stream, did you notice there when she was talking about that, how she lit up, right? How she lit up. That's how you know you're in the right space. Like when you're talking about what you do and you can see the aura change, right? I had that same thing when I first started training my fitness. I was still managing too. I was building it on the side, like out of my garage. But I would get up in the morning to go to the restaurant, and you just have that. I don't wanna. Like I just don't wanna. But when those clients started showing up at my house, it was a completely different feeling, and I was stuck in that. All right, this pays the bills, but this lights up my soul. And then the universe intervened, and I got fired from my management job. And the universe was like, no, run this direction. I didn't have a marketing degree. I don't have a degree at all, right? I didn't have any savings. I didn't have the best credit. And say, how is this going to work? But I just focused on what I was best at, and that was getting people to believe in themselves. And then doors just started opening. People would approach me. Investors approach me. We opened up a 5,000 square foot facility. Like you don't have to have it all figured out. Going back to what I think we both said it earlier, once you figure out what you no longer want, right? You no longer wanted to feel the way you were feeling. And so you took steps in an unknown direction and you found your passion, right? If you stay in the fire, you're never going to find your passion. So to what you're doing now, how has this changed your life?
Well, I'm not practicing law anymore. I sold the business with my partner about 9 years ago to our
Oh no, I
associate.
meant what you're currently doing. Sorry. Yeah, what you're
Oh,
currently
that's all
doing.
right. So
Okay.
what was your question again? I'm sorry, I just lost it.
So shifting to what you're doing now, how has that changed your life?
Well, while I was still an attorney, I was kind of crazy of like, I got this, I always get inspirations, and I can't say I've always had, but whenever I followed them, it's been a good deal. And I've had some really amazing women in my life. And one started a coaching company. Another started a business where she was teaching transformational holistic counseling. Another one was a meditation facilitator, and that was part of what she did. And I ended up, especially with the coaching, my friend kept on saying, Arlene, I think this would really benefit you. And I was like, I have a BA in political science. I have a law degree, 3 years. That's 7 years of education. I was like really arrogant. I said, I don't need anything more. But I just began, it's just like, I feel like life was working with me. I don't know how to, I don't want to sound too woo-woo for your guests. Our spirit was working with me. And it's like, I could really see how law school and how life had not taught me to be a good listener. And I was doing the marketing for the law firm in Colorado at that point. I was on the phone a lot, negotiating settlements with people. And we also had a staff, we had 2 attorneys and we had about 3 paralegals. So it wasn't big, but I still had to, communicate and stuff like that. And I'm like, you are not a good listener. If you really want to step up to be the kind of best attorney that you want to be, you need to do this. So while my son was still around, he's all grown up now, I got a diploma in coaching and mentoring. I got a diploma in transformational holistic counseling, and I got training as a certified meditation facilitator. So all of that had already been in place, and I was applying it in my life personally. And I was applying it in my practice of law and in my marriage and in my relationship with my son and with the people that I was talking with on the phone. And yeah, I just got to the point that I was like, I'd had enough practicing law. I'd done everything that there was to do, and it just wasn't exciting anymore. And I couldn't go anywhere without the business following me because, there's a 2-attorney law firm. You always have stuff to do, and you're working hard to leave. You're working hard when you come back. And I was just done. And so I opened my business, Jewel Consultancy. It had already been there, and I was sort of dabbling part-time. But yeah, I just decided that. So we sold the business, and yeah, I went into this business full time, and it sort of took a while to evolve what I wanted to do. But basically what I do, I just don't work with women. I do that in some areas when I'm like helping people go from stress to serenity. There is a more of a focus with women. But what I do is I combine both my legal and my other skills I just shared with you to help people negotiate, like, kind of from the heart with executive presence, so that you're bringing in the masculine and the feminine strengths of communicating and resolving things with other people, knowing that sometimes you just can't resolve with some people or some organizations. There's no magic fairy dust that makes it always work. But yeah, so that's some of the stuff I'm doing, like kind of the seminars and the workshops and the individual one-on-one coaching and mentoring stuff. And so I sort of have found my sweet spot with that. But it wasn't that the law wasn't a sweet spot. It just felt like it was time to change.
See, and time to change. That's great, because again, I say on this show hundreds of times, for most people, the answer to your problem, it's already in your mind. It's already there. Like when I was at my wit's end in the restaurants, I was like, I know what I want to do. I just have to do it. So I want to train people. So, but how am I going to do it? Like I don't have $100,000 laying around to just open up this facility. And I started just getting used equipment off of Craigslist. I would look for moving sales, because people moving, they're motivated to get rid of their stuff. So I'd get a treadmill, I'd get some dumbbells, I'd get a couple kettlebells, have just enough to get started. And going back to what you said it took a while to evolve into what you wanted it to do. And again, so for the perfectionists out there, cut it out. Right? Cut it out. Just get it started. Even just take these graphics. This is probably the 6th iteration of my graphics. The theme of the podcast, it started out just being about health and fitness. And once you start realizing the parallels, like the parallels of your background to what you're doing now, it all blends in. So the principles that I use to help somebody lose 20 pounds or put on 5 pounds of muscle, it's completely parallel to people who want to get out of the rut or to get off the hamster wheel. So you got to have a beginning point. You got to know what you're no longer going to tolerate. You have to embrace what you have to do to get it done, and then you got to persevere until it happens, and then set a new goal. Right? So because fitness, that's exactly the process. And so I want to hear, in your words, from your own past, in your past education, how did those skills help you make that transition to what you're doing now?
Well, I didn't love law school, but I did love what I did as an attorney. Because I didn't have to be like a standard lawyer. I got to market the law firm, and I had the opportunity. We were members of the Commercial Law League of America, and I ended up being the chair of the Western region, the chair of the creditors' rights section, and I got to manage the Western region event that happened every year for 5 years, and I got to serve on the board of governors. I didn't want to be on the board or run for president because, oh my God, those meetings were so boring. But I did what I needed to do, and it was a great learning experience about how to lead, how to interact, how to be with people, how to practice my listening skills, because you went to a lot of parties and went on boats, and they scheduled fun things. It was more like bonding with other people that were in the same business. You could send each other business, but not in a way that were like, blah, 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 here's how I can help you, which I don't like to do at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was it just turned out into an experience that I enjoyed, because I didn't really like the grind of going to court as much. And we had, 2 associates who did all that kind of stuff. So I guess that kind of stuff, plus, helping to manage the law firm and learning how to communicate better with the different, courses that I took, all that helped to be a better coach. I mean, I did go through a whole diploma, but that back then it was called a Cert 4 because I got it from Australia, to learn how to do these kind of things. And, because they weren't skills that I got anywhere. It wasn't something that was taught. I mean, my father was an excellent role model, because he started and he developed his own business and stepped away from his father and his 2 brothers who had another business. And it was a complementary business, and he could have stayed in there, but he didn't. So I did have that role model. So I hope I answered your question. That was a lot.
Yeah, no, you're good. All right, so what's the best thing about what you're doing now?
Well, I really feel an affinity to the women that I help because when I started my first law firm when I was 29, and it was just a little, I mean, I literally was sharing an office space with two other attorneys, an employment agency, and the guy that was the collection agency who used to be a pastor. And back then there was no computers. I had a typewriter, and I just put out a sign, and I forgot what my point was here. It's just
I
gone.
hate when that happens.
What was your question again? And I'll remember it.
What's the best thing about what you're doing now?
Oh, well, the best thing about, oh yeah, the best thing. So I found out I was pregnant like a month after I started my law firm. All my family, all my colleagues, from myself and my partner then, all in Kentucky, 6 hours away. And so I had to build my own tribe. And that was really cool. And so that experience of sort of being, and my ex was at the Cleveland Clinic doing his residency. So he was working, being trained, and I didn't see him except to come home and eat and sort of fall in his plate of food. He was so tired. So I had to build all that by myself. So I have a real heartfelt empathy and understanding of what it feels like to be a working woman with kids or just elderly parents or anything that there is. Um, so yeah, that's how that helped with women, and with the law firms and the men and women with negotiating. When I was first started negotiating, in family law, it was very caustic. Most of the attorneys were men. There were some women. There was about a third of my class was women, but it was very mirror oriented. Like get in your face and you try to make me afraid. And it wasn't a workable system. It didn't feel like. And I feel like what I can bring to places that are high stress like tech companies and law firms and really anybody is that there's a better way, because if you use negotiation as a way to bring in the relationship stuff, plus what your boundaries are and what you'd like to accomplish, but not with that kind of vehemency. I don't know how to describe it. You're going to build long-term relationships. You're more likely to keep the people, the associates, or the new people in your company that you've invested a lot of time and money into than if it's all about you, and all about the money that you make and, having your clients, quote, be happy. I don't know if anyone's really happy when they have someone like that represent that. So anyway, thanks for the comment. That's
Yes.
that's my that's my long-winded answer to you because I got lost in midstream. Sorry about that.
No, that's all. That's all good. But you mentioned something in there that I want to touch on about boundaries, right? Because I hear people, especially here in the gym, people talk all the time, and they're like, "Oh, I have to do this on this day. Oh, I have to go here on Sunday," and I'm like, "Why?" It's like if you feel that strongly about it, then why are you going to go? So it was when I was 38. I donated a kidney to my sister, and during that process, for whatever reason, I felt my own mortality. Right. So after the surgery, I was like, I'm never again going to do something I don't want to do. I'm like, never again. And I have that boundary firmly set. So when people invite me places and I say no, they know that I truly mean that. So it was like they don't try to guilt me into it or say, oh well, you're not. Like, no, I'm not coming. Like that's just how it is. It's like I'm in charge of my time, and if it's something that I don't want to do, I'm not going to do it. So I mean, I know that's a little bold, but that's my personality. Like people that know
That's
me will be
right.
like that. That's him, right? So,
Right.
but what does the boundary mean to you?
Well, it means both kind of what happens in physical reality, and it's also, to me, it's energetic as well, because I work with that as well with people. Because,
Mm.
every time we have a conversation with someone, energetic connections are established. And there's some energetic connections that are always there that we need to cleanse and clear. Like with people we've had sex with, or with our genetic family. And actually, if we're in a physical body, we're actually connected to the mind of humanity, which I find quite intimidating. It's like, oh my God, I need to cleanse and clear those energetic connections. Otherwise, I'm going to be bombarded by a lot of stuff that's not helpful. But, you know, when it comes to right here on the ground, and this comes to negotiating, just to be in life so that you're not somebody else's doormat. And I am a recovering perfectionist and a recovering people pleaser and doormat. And so I know what that feels like. And so I feel like I can help people find a better way. There is a way to say no, that maybe I would do that's different than yours. I might just say, you know, I'm busy, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But, you know, my thoughts will be there with you. Or I'll just say I have other plans, but, you know, I wish you well with all of that. But it'll be very clear that I'm not coming. And I mean, I even did that New Year's Eve. My son had a party with the family and with some friends, and I got there at 5. I left at 9:30, and they all knew I was going to do. I told them before, I'm not going to make it till midnight. No one. They're all very, very nice. No one expects anything like that. And my son knows that basically, if there's like too many people there, and then lots of people drinking and, you know, whatever, I'm out of there. It's just not my deal. So the more I do that, like you're talking about, the more people just accept that's who I am. And that's the great thing about, you know, like practice makes permanent. You keep on practicing it, but you have a sense of humor about it, then people will begin to go, that's just like her, or that's just like Bob, or whatever it is that
Yeah.
you know, they want to say to make it okay. They know they're not taking it personally. It's just who I am. If I don't want to do something, I won't do it. But sometimes, you know, I found that it's important to step forward. You know, it's important to let someone know that you're thinking about them, or, you know, maybe send them a text or remind them of how much you appreciate them. Even if you're not going to something, there's a way to bring that feminine energy into it. That's what I'm learning, because you know, law school is very masculine. At least it was.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like now. To bring some of that to harmonize things with other people without foregoing who I am and where my clear, strong, and appropriate boundaries are of what's appropriate to me or not in my life. I'm not going to have anyone in my life who dumps their crap in my energy field. You know, just comes and goes, and like spews everything that's wrong, and then walks away and feels better because maybe, you know, I'm clearer and brighter and more upbeat than they are. So yeah, I have things like that, and I just sort of send that energy right back to them. Like, what's mine is mine, is what yours is yours, honey. It's going right back to you. So, you know, I feel like boundaries are both energetic, and they're also like personally what's okay and what's not okay with us. And the more that we are, and I think another thing to remember that, you know, as we change, maybe like with me, I didn't have boundaries, and, you know, I was more of a doormat, and I was a perfectionist, and I was a people pleaser. When we change and the other person's not, we need to be kind, patient, and tolerant with them, because we're the one that's changing. And it's perfectly natural for them to have a reaction. And if we are compassionate and kind with that while still maintaining those boundaries, it's a lot kinder way to be.
Yeah, and so when I was establishing the boundaries, yes, I was very, very, very firm. You know, just to make sure people knew, like, no, like, don't try to push me. Now I'll get the, are you available? Are you interested? You know, not like the, you know, everyone's meeting at 4 o'clock on Saturday. Like, okay, like if I'm not available, I'm not available. Right? If I don't want to go, that just means I'm not available. Right? So it's like I'm not a total jerk about it, but
I just
make sure I'm firm. Yeah, just make sure I'm firm about it, though. It's like, no, don't try to guilt me or say, oh, well, so and so's gonna miss you, or so and so's gonna say. I don't care. It's like one of the most freeing things that I've ever done in my life was stop caring what other people think. It's like, I'm gonna move the way I move. I say what I say, and that's how it is. You know, going back to your point about being a people pleaser, it's like, how are you pleasing others when you yourself aren't happy? You know, it's like I find that since I took my boundaries, I can actually better help people. Because when people come to me and they're dealing with all these problems, well, it's like, well, why are you tolerating that? And they're like, wait, why did you word it like that? Because you're tolerating that behavior. It's like, you have to set the boundary that I will not tolerate that anymore. So it actually made me a better coach in taking that stance because a lot of people are afraid to do it because they're people pleasers and they don't want that fear of judgment. You know, so
Can
I
I
want to
share
shift
something with
gears.
that will
Oh,
be kind of
absolutely, absolutely. Go
so
ahead.
this you might like this quote. Other people's opinions are none of my business. That's what I tell
Yes,
myself all the time. And
absolutely.
also I just wanted to share before we go on is that I mean, I don't have a business like yours, but when I was younger, I was the runner in triathlons. I ran 5Ks, I ran 10Ks, I ran half marathons, even in the mountains of Colorado. Once I acclimated here, it's a different air quality. And,
Yep.
and then I got injured as a runner, and I have a very kind of daily rigorous, not the woo-woo time, the woo kind of yoga practice and fitness and, with sculpt and weights and, um, I think it's really important to do that stuff to take care of ourselves. So I love what
Yes.
you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Good, good, good. All right. So I want to talk to you about, well, with you about authenticity, right? Because I think a lot of that ties into what we were talking about. So you may have noticed I have a tank top on, right? So I want to say this is about 2 months ago, 2 or 3 months ago. I spoke on a panel with a global speakers talk, and I had a pre-interview. Not well, yeah. So I had a pre-call with the admin, and so as we're talking, we're vibing. She's liking what I have to say. She's like, but just for the summit, she's like, we trust that you'll come in professional attire. And I said, sure, absolutely. I was like, but can I ask you a question? I said, whose profession are we going by? I said, because in my profession, I can wear a tank top. Right? I said, so this panel is about authenticity, but you're asking me to show up in something I would not wear in my profession. so so she was like, okay, all right, fair enough. And so she let me come as me, and not saying it to brag, but I kind of blew away that panel. So like it's about the content of what you're putting out to me, right? So I want to know, what does authenticity mean to you?
For me, to be authentic is to be like my best self and to listen to my own heart's knowing and to make sure that I'm speaking from that to the best of my ability and not being, inappropriately influenced by other people and to be willing to admit when I make mistakes and when, I need to apologize for something because we all make mistakes. We all make lots of mistakes every day. I don't know about
Yep,
you, but I would be willing to say that. And most of them are small, but I find that one of the ways that I can establish authenticity is just to be like, hey, I made a mistake. I'm really sorry about this, or I didn't mean it to come out this way. I'm not pandering to them. I'm just saying, hey, I'm sorry. And
yes,
that's a way to be authentic, but also to connect with other people as well, because I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And sometimes people can, because I have these credentials or whatever, that I'm this kind of person or that kind of person. But who knows? How do they really know who I am? Which is why you like to ask the question that you do to begin with, which is really cool. And yeah, it's just being the most true to myself in each moment that I possibly can, and sort of reviewing and going, well, that went really well, and that really could have been picked up, and I could do that better next time. And so that
yes,
it's sort of like you're doing with running. It's like, okay, how would I do it next time that's more authentic, real, true, more about compassion and less about me and all that kind of stuff that we sometimes like seeps in there. And then you just sort of feel it and visualize it like I'm sounding like you're doing. And the next time you'll have that foundation there, to be more of your authentic self.
yeah. See, and I think a lot of people suffer with, say, I don't want to say depression, or just like feeling unfulfilled. There we go. About feeling unfulfilled because they lose track of who they are. So when I'm ever asked that question, I always say I'm a competitor, right? It's like, yeah, I may have a book. I'm an author. I'm a podcast host. I'm a speaker. I manage a gym. I'm a fitness coach. I coach track and field. But that's all things that I do, right? That's not who I am. At my core, I'm a competitor. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm having surgery next week. I'm already game planning this comeback, and I haven't even felt the first day after the surgery yet. but that's not how I'm wired. Everything to me is a competition. I asked the surgeon, what's the average person's recovery? And he's like, to get back to what they're doing, and he's like, about 6 months. I said, all right, 90 days, game on. But that's me. That's who I am. So everything that I tackle in life, it's through that lens. So even when I'm working with a client, like, what's your biggest struggle? All right, this is how we're going to get through this. But that's me. That's who I am. Like, shut up and grind. That's me. That's how I operate in everyday life, no matter what life throws at me. Because things happen to me, right? I could go outside right now and I could have a flat tire. I can cry about it, or I can change the tire and move on. It's like that's just how I operate. So before we bring it down, what's one of the number one things that you help people with?
Just to let go of stuff that's not working. To really acknowledge and to be able to see, okay, this is not working. I had a client once who was kind of a doormat at work. She was like a middle management kind of person, had 2 teenage daughters. And the relationship wasn't that good because she sort of ruled them with an iron fist and wouldn't give into like reasonable requests, like to get a dog. And so she came in with this feeling and even said it out loud. Well, my daughters are always going to be in my life. And I'm like thinking to myself, they are not, honey, not if you continue to treat them like this. But you don't do that as a coach. Well, I don't do that. I just allow them to talk, to share insights and intuitions and ask powerful questions and notice their body language and what's going on for them so that they can see, some people are very direct and we can deal it in a different way, what's going on so that there can be more harmony in both the personal and the professional life without having to compensate, interpersonal life. So to help people to let go of what's not working, really acknowledge what is. Lots of times people don't know, so that they can step forward and actually create in their life what they're looking for. And, this goes for really successful professional people as well, because lots of times there's some place in there that's an Achilles heel that's really bothering them.
Yes. Yeah, and a lot of it too is past pain. Like, again, that's a huge reason why I shifted this from fitness into something that's more universal. I mean, fitness is universal too, but a lot of people, most people don't join the gym because they're feeling great about themselves. It's like a lot of times there's, people are fresh off of a divorce or a breakup, fresh off of a career change. And I just found like a lot of people join the gym because they're trying to get through something. And that was when I started shifting the focus here from just health and wellness to overcoming obstacles and getting through, something that's happened to you that's keeping you in that mental prison, right? So helping people break free and, to use your words, let go, right? To help people let go. Like, people hang on to these things that they don't need to hold on to. It's like, you'll never forget what happened, but you can control how it affects you. I'd like to get your thoughts on that, and then we'll break it down with some final words.
Well, of course, we're going to have moments in our life with relationships or whatever happened. You were talking about relationships or jobs where there was really great moments, or moments we would have a do-over and do it differently. But if you use that as an opportunity to learn and grow, which is basically your philosophy, just said differently, is that, okay, how would I do it differently next time? What I look like? What would I sound like? How would that feel like? What kind of person would I be to handle it like that? So that we're laying that foundation for that to happen, which is what you're doing with your knee surgery, in your own unique way. And that really helps to take it out of judging yourself by, okay, I made this mistake. We all make lots of mistakes. How can I turn this disaster into a blessing so the next time something similar comes around, I can be a different person?
Yeah, love that. Love that. All right. So is there anything you wanna throw in that we didn't cover?
Not really. There is a saying this of a mentor of mine that might help your people, is that any disaster can become a blessing and any blessing can become a disaster, but there's always a better way. So no matter what you do, there's always a better way. You can make it happen. And even if it's a disaster, you can still turn that around too.
Love that. Yeah, like one of my mentors would always say, turn your mess into a message. So pretty much same thing, different words. But yeah, so let people know where they can get in touch with you. If you have anything to offer, feel free.
Well, if you Google Arlene Cohen Miller, you'll find all the places I am online. My company is Jewel, Jewel Consultancy. You can go to my website. If you're interested in going from stress to serenity as a professional woman, I'm going to be coming out with a new course online for that. Not a course, but like a community. And also, if you are in a company that could have some better negotiating and communicating skills, where maybe you're losing, people that you've invested a lot of money in, or whatever's going on, I'm coming out and combining coaching and mentoring and the law to help people with that, help companies with that.
All right. And so for the final words, right, there's somebody out there right now who's struggling and they're afraid to ask for help. What are your words of advice?
That we are better together. If we try to do everything by ourselves, it's going to be sludging through mud or whatever, or tar. But when we step into groups of people I call it like-minded souls who have similar interests, it can be something totally different. I want to learn how to run. I want to learn how to throw pottery. I want to go take a hike in the mountains with other people. Join and do something with other people that will begin to get you out of that funk. And, there's nothing wrong with asking somebody else, because we would always be there for somebody else if they came to us, most likely. So, that is the positive way forward. But what I shared was like an intermediary step, because we are better together. You don't have to do it alone.
Absolutely. And I always tell people, find somebody that has what you want. Because too many times people take advice from somebody that's in the same boat as them. Right? Like you mentioned having a mentor. I mentioned having a mentor, and I've had several over the years. Because as I mentioned, I don't have a college education. So I went to like a year and a half, maybe. Oh God, delete. People leaving foolish comments. Delete. All right, sorry, but yeah. So I traveled the country going to different masterminds. And I learned marketing, I learned branding, I learned how to get media attention. It's like I learned all this stuff that I needed to know. So for people, all the information is out there. It's like I don't know how people still fall for this. There's no opportunities like that. That's we live in the best time ever as far as personal development, between YouTube courses like yours, courses like mine, books that are out there, audio books like. There are people on TikTok who act an entire fool and they have millions of followers. You know what I mean? So whatever it is that's keeping you stuck, just figure out what you no longer want, figure out what you do want, and then go make that happen. So,
Right.
Do you want to add anything to that?
Yes. I
Okay.
think that people get overwhelmed. So all you really have to do is take one step forward at a time, no matter how small. Acknowledge yourself for that. At least have a celebration once a week. And if you've taken one teeny tiny step forward, you're going to be a whole different person by the end of 2026.
Absolutely true. And that's a great way to end. So thank you very much for taking the time to come out, sharing your experience and your knowledge. And so for the people listen, you can see we have two different deliveries, but we're saying the same exact thing. And the thing is people need Arlene's delivery. There are people out there that need that softer, gentle, guided touch. But there are other people out there that need a foot in their back. Like those are the people that get attracted to me. So that's why I like to bring people on with different deliveries, different points of view. And with that being said, if you're interested, I do panels. And we take one topic. As you see, this one's embracing vulnerability. And we just round table that one topic. And like there can be up to 6 other guests plus me. So you're talking 7 people have given 7 points of view on the same topic. Like it's absolutely amazing. And we do that because there's a lot of people out there. There's billions of people. So some person might listen to me and be like, oh, he's too much, right? And then other people will listen to you and be like, yes, she's perfect. So having those panels, and a lot of collaborations happen from those panels too. Like people have co-authored books, people have gone on to start shows together, people show swap and all that. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll reach out when I'm doing the next ones.
Oh, you're talking to me?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I thought you were talking to your audience. I would
No, I
love
was
to do
talking to
something
you.
like that. I've done that with a couple of other podcasters, and it was so much fun. And quite frankly, just so you know, I do have another side. I am an attorney, and I'm not saying that to, oh, look at me. It's like I can be a real bitch if I need to. I can draw a hard
I love
line.
it.
But it just feels like when I on these podcasts, if I slow down a little bit, especially if I have someone that's very different from me, that's what people
Yeah.
need to hear, both sides of it. So I didn't want you to
Yeah.
think I'm one-dimensional here, because I am not.
She's like, I can be savage.
I don't know if savage would be me, but I can be.
Gotcha. That's awesome.
Yeah, I would love
Well,
to do that. That would be great.
okay. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't do any in 2025, but I'm gonna do more of them this year. So yeah, I'll definitely keep you in the loop when I'm doing them.
Okay, great. That sounds
All
wonderful.
right.
And thanks for having me on your show, and I'll be on my way.
All righty. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Shut Up and Grind. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Robert has over 20 years experience pouring his knowledge and expertise at many events in the service and fitness industry, as well as secondary schools and universities. He has a true passion for helping others break through the barriers that are holding them back. To book Robert B. Foster to speak or to reach out, go to robertbfoster.com. Till next time, shut up and grind.